Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Svenja and I am a knitter based out of Greater Portland, Maine. And here on YouTube, I talk all about what I'm knitting, what I'm dreaming about knitting, and some fun other yarn related adventures. If you're new here, then thanks so much for joining. I'm really excited to have you here. I know I got a few new followers after my last episode, the Everything That I Knit in 2022 video, where I shared most of what I made in the last year. I actually had every intention of making another video shortly after that to follow, talking about some of my plans for the year ahead. But life got really busy and I honestly needed a bit of a break after the holiday season. And then I got this lovely cold, which I'm still getting over. So excuse me if my voice sounds a little different today, but I am excited to be back and sharing some progress on some projects, some new acquisitions, and then I thought I would talk a little bit about my plans for the next year ahead. Before we get started, I thought I'd share what I'm wearing. This is the York sweater by Darling J'adore. It was actually one of my very first sweater projects, so thought it was appropriate to wear my first video this year as sort of a throwback. It was a top-down sweater, clearly a raglan style, and it's in a worsted weight yarn. I forget the name of the yarn as well as the color. I could probably dig it up somewhere if you're interested. This is a pattern that is unfortunately no longer available for reasons that aren't known to me, but if you're looking for something similar, Petite Knits No Frills pattern is very similar, so that's what I would recommend if you're looking to make something like this. The first whip that I'm going to share with you is actually a project I have shown before. This here is my basic cabled cardigan by Irene Lynn, and it's a top-down cardigan that's knit flat with tons of beautiful cables kind of down the front, down the sleeves here, and then all over the back. And I've actually made decent progress on this. I don't even think I had split for the sleeves last time, so that's a good amount of knitting. And it's been honestly a labor of love. I started this project, I think early fall maybe last year. It's actually the second time I'm knitting this. First time was in a different yarn, and I'm not going to bore you with that story, but if you're interested in why this is the second time, then please go check out my last few episodes where I talk about this. I was really hoping for like an oversized jacket with this knit here, and I tried it on for the first time yesterday, and so far so good. I'm really liking the fit. I think with a little bit of blocking it will relax a little bit and really maybe grow a little bit to that oversized fit that I'm looking for. I'm not knitting on this exclusively, which is also probably why it's taking so long. Something about knitting flat and tons of cabling doesn't really make for the most mindless project. So I knit a couple rows and then take a break, but I'm really happy with the progress that I've made so far. This is knit in Kelbourne Woolen's Lucky Tweed. I actually pulled out a skein here to show you all. This is a Aran weight woolen spun merino wool that has these gorgeous little flecks of like beige and black and some tans and brown, so it makes for a really interesting but neutral yarn. And I've really enjoyed working with this so far. It's, like I said, a woolen spun yarn, but has not broken once, despite all the really heavy cabling I've done, which is pretty impressive for a woolen spun yarn because they tend to be much more delicate than worsted spun. And this is in the color medium gray, which is just a really nice neutral gray. So more to come. My husband and I are actually going to Ireland in about a month, and I'm really hoping to finish this by then and be able to wear it there. Probably very basic and cliche or touristy of me to say that, but something about a tweedy cabled design screams Ireland to me. So hoping for that to come to fruition. My next whip is actually a project I have yet to share either on Instagram or here on my channel, but it won't surprise you when you hear who the designer is. So here it is. This is the Caramel Sweater by Petite Knit. You guys know that I love Petite Knit patterns. I just think she has a really nice design style, and her garments tend to fit me really nicely. So it's kind of a no-brainer when I was looking for a turtleneck design to pick her pattern. So again, Caramel Sweater. It's knit top down with this beautiful 2x2 ribbing for the turtleneck, and then just a really classic raglan sleeve. I've actually made a ton of progress on this. It was the first project I cast on after the new year, and it's essentially been flying off of the needles here. I'm about to start the ribbing on the bottom, and this does call for a tubular bind off, which I am going to make the effort to do. My sweater number 11, I did not do a tubular bind off. I just got really lazy, and every time I wear it, I kind of kick myself that I didn't do it, because it just really creates a really nice, beautiful finish. So yeah, this is Caramel Sweater. The fact that it's called the Caramel Sweater, it sounds ridiculous, but I had to use a caramel colored yarn, which this is a little bit more red than caramel, but it still does the trick for me. And I am knitting it in West Yorkshire Spinner's Fleece, which is 100% British wool. This is a BFL DK weight, and this is in the shade Umber. And I picked this up at a local yarn store over in New Hampshire, and I'm really satisfied with this yarn so far. I'm holding it double with this here. So this is Knitting for Olive, soft silk mohair. I'm actually brand new to working with Knitting for Olive. I'm really impressed so far, actually. So this is in the shade dark cognac, and so definitely more of a brown. And then when held with the red, I don't know if you can see that, that's kind of better. So it's toning down a lot of the red. I really like to see, I don't know if that's doing the trick. That kind of does it. Although the sweater looks a lot more like the reddish brown, which in person it looks a little bit more brown. So yeah, so that combo is making this knit. And yeah, I'm happy with it so far. I really hope to be finishing this maybe in the next month or so I can be wearing it with all of this winter weather ahead. It's been snowing here in Maine finally, and we have some more snow on the way next week. So it's perfect time for all the woolly knits. So moving on with some acquisitions, I have a little bit of yarn, some needles, and a few books actually. So in addition to the mohair that I ordered for my Caramel Sweater, I went ahead and ordered 2 skeins of the Knitting for Olive Merino, which is listed as a fingering weight yarn. To me, it feels a little bit more like a light fingering. And this is in the color Marzipan, which is this gorgeous kind of lighter gray beige color. I only ordered a couple skeins of this, basically to try it out. I was hesitant to order a full sweater quantity of a yarn I hadn't tried before, but this gets a lot of hype online, both on social media as well as here on YouTube. So really curious to try this, and so far it feels really, really soft. I think it will be really nice to work with, and yeah, maybe 2 skeins will be enough for like a baby project. I have a lot of friends having kids this year, so potentially something like that, or some smaller accessories. So excited to work with that. And then in addition to the dark cognac color for the mohair, I ordered a full sweater quantity of Knitting for Olive's mohair in the color Oat. And yeah, excited to work with this. I have a lot of neutral yarn in my stash that this will pair really nicely with. So I definitely think this will become a sweater this year. So far, I'm really impressed with the quality of this yarn. It's super soft. It has pretty generous yardage for the price. So I think this will probably become a new staple in my stash. I'm really happy with this so far. Next up are some needles, which I know aren't the most exciting things to talk about, but I think can really make or break a project, and they are technically an acquisition, so I thought I would share with you here. So these are the Chiagoo red lace interchangeable twist knitting needles, and I don't even have them in the little sleeves anymore. They're already in use. So I am a Chiagoo fan through and through. These are the needles that I would recommend to you. I have knit with a lot of different types of needles, anything from like the most basic and expensive ones to higher end, sort of like these Chiagoo or Addies. And Chiagoos are just my favorites. I really enjoy working with them for essentially any type of yarn combination, any project really. I will tend to choose Chiagoo. So I have a few different fixed circular needles in some more of the common sizes, but was feeling like either they were in use for a project or the cable size wasn't the best for the project I was working on. So I kind of bit the bullet and ordered some of the more common sizes in the needles, and then I ordered both a US 6 and 7, which is a 4mm and a 4.5mm interchangeable set, which is really convenient because I can just continue to add on to my collection. These are generally fairly affordable. I guess purchasing them separately compared to an entire kit if you're not using every type of needle size. Like for me, I'm not routinely using like a US 0 or 1 or like a 10 or 11. I'm kind of more in the like 3.5 to 5mm range. So I ordered these from an Etsy shop that had this set like as a bundle, which was really convenient. It includes the essentially the cable sizes, anything from an 8-inch to a 37-inch. So that's a pretty good variety, and I will likely not need any more cables. If anything, I can just order the separate needles, which I'll show you the needle tips. They're on my cabled cardigan. So those are the tips here. I don't know if you can see them. They have really nice sharp tips and screw on together with a little like T-pin. And so far so good. I've had no issues with the join. They feel a lot like the fixed circular needles. So yeah. Lastly, I have a few books to share with you that are both gifted from my husband this year for Christmas. He always finds sort of a unique knitting or yarn related gift for me, things that I wouldn't necessarily buy for myself. So the first one is called Fiber Shed. It's a book by Rebecca Burgess, and it's all about where our clothing is coming from and how the production of clothing impacts our environment, our different labor industries, our health. It's been really eye-opening so far, and I already recommend it. So hoping to get through more of this soon. And then the second one here is really fun. This is Knitting the National Parks. This is a book that essentially has a hat pattern for every national park. And I have yet to make anything from this book, but there's just so many great ideas. Essentially it has like a little blurb about the different parks and then a hat pattern. And we love hiking, and we've been to a few national parks with plans to go to a lot more. So I was really excited to add this to my knitting library. Alrighty, moving on to sharing some of my knitting plans for 2023. I actually struggled a little bit with how to share this information. If you've been following me at all, you will have heard me talk a lot about me transitioning from selling finished knitwear to essentially knitting just for myself and for friends and family. And if you watched my last episode where I shared pretty much everything that I made last year, you will have seen that I knit a really wide variety of different patterns, and I experimented with a lot of different types of yarns and color combinations. And while that was all well and good, I could justify really trying out different things, different yarns, by essentially the profit that I was making on my finished knitwear. And so this year, because I will no longer be doing that, I'm really placed in this position where I need to be making more mindful choices to knit patterns and use yarns that make for garments or accessories that are really valued items in my life. I also did a lot of reflecting on some of the pieces that I made last year and came to the realization that a lot of the things that I was knitting weren't necessarily items that I would be reaching for on a routine basis. And if you see like my stack of sweaters right over there, I only wear like a handful of these on a regular basis. You know, it's not to say that knitting items that are just for the process aren't worth it, but I think for me this year ahead really comes down to making more mindful choices to pick patterns and projects that will be sweaters or garments or accessories, that sort of thing, that I'll be reaching for on a routine basis and really wear nicely over time, wash nicely, and are essentially more like staple items that I can coordinate within my existing wardrobe. So with those concepts in mind, I did a little bit of brainstorming, some Ravelry searching, and some sketching, as I have here with me, of projects and patterns that would really make for kind of staple items in my wardrobe. And I won't talk too in depth about each single one, and you'll essentially see a little bit of a theme here as I go through them, but I think I'll throw up like a little picture and explain a little bit why I think these would make really great projects for me this year. First pattern here is the Moby Sweater. I really hope to make this in the next few months. This is another petite knit pattern, which I know is no surprise by now. I have been loving cables, so I think this would be the perfect cabled project. It's knit in a DK weight yarn and a mohair held together, which is becoming a favorite combination of mine. And I think the Moby Sweater in a neutral color will really make for kind of a staple cabled sweater that I would probably be reaching for on a routine basis. Next is the Champagne Cardigan, which is another petite knit pattern. This is a great layering piece in my opinion. I think also knitted in a neutral color would be something I would wear a lot, maybe over like a blouse or even a dress in the spring. So I think this would be a really great cardigan to add to my list. Next pattern is the Dartmoor Sweater. This is a pattern by Kadri, who's one of my favorite designers. This is a drop shoulder sweater that's knit in a bulky weight yarn. I realistically probably won't be making this until next fall, but I really love this kind of oversized fit, and I think maybe in like a jewel tone color like her sample is knit in would be really nice. And yeah, I think this would be a great option for me this year. Next up is Rift, which is a pattern by Jacqueline Cieslak, which is essentially a basic tee that has some different options for necklines, knit in a sport weight yarn. I think something like a cotton would be really nice for the spring or summer. Definitely something I could see myself wearing on a routine basis, like over skirts or like with a dress. So I think that would look really nice and be a great kind of warmer weather knit this year. Next pattern is the Weekend Slipover, which is another pattern by Petite Knit. I think this would be a great stash busting project actually, and would probably go really quickly because it's just a vest. I could see myself styling this with like a few different button-up shirts with dress pants. I could wear it to the office or out casually. And I actually don't have anything like this in my wardrobe that's either store-bought or knit, so I think would be a really nice addition. Last on my list is the Sunday Morning Wrap, which is a free pattern by A Space Tricot. And there's actually another option called the Sunday Morning Shawl, which is very similar but has some baubles in the construction. And this is a essentially an oversized triangle shawl, which I'm not a huge shawl knitter, but I did make one last year and get a ton of use out of it as both like a layering piece as well as kind of something to wrap up with when I'm cold in the office. So I'm really hoping to make this in like a neutral color so it pairs nicely with different options in my wardrobe, and I think it would be really fun knit as well. So that's it for now, kind of a brief overview of what I've been doing recently as well as some plans for the future. If you liked this video, then please either give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. Every bit of support helps me grow here and allows me to keep on producing content like this for you. So I hope you're doing well. Enjoy the rest of your day or your weekend, and until next time, happy knitting. Bye.